Hi, I'm Shara and I'm a FAANG recruiter, then university recruiting at a ton of companies. While this isn't representative of those companies, every university recruiting season I get a ton of messages and I oftentimes see people make small mistakes or not maximizing their resume to the fullest. So I thought I'd give some general advice here in terms of what causes me to automatically reject candidates, what can be differentiators, and how to get a recruiter like me to actually respond. Recruiters aren't ever trying to ghost you on purpose, and we would love to try to help every single person who messages us. But unfortunately, there's just too many people. I want to say when we have internships open up, there's thousands of people who are applying, already having to work with like hundreds of candidates just to put them through the interview. So oftentimes we can't always respond to the other hundreds of messages that we're getting in our inboxes. You want to think about how many students are in your major alone for your year, and then think about how many schools there are in the US. There's just tons and tons of people. So an easy exercise you can do right now is just go on LinkedIn, look at people in your school, and go look through students who are in your same major in your same year. And that's how you can kind of start to see already like where you're comparing amongst other students in your school. Otherwise, you can look at other schools, see where your resume stands, see what they might have in their resume, what types of programs they're applying for, what types of internships. Look at people who are maybe a year ahead of you. It's my best tip for if you're lost and you have no idea where to start. Start on LinkedIn. That's literally what recruiters do. We look through LinkedIn, we look through each person's profile, and we try to find the top students in each school. So now you know kind of where you stand. The thing about university is this is the time in your life where you're all kind of starting from the same place. Like you all go to the same schools, take the same classes, more or less have the same amount of opportunities. So that this is going to be the most straightforward time where you can understand how to differentiate yourself. Obviously, there's the big three, which everyone knows, which is high GPA, a high-ranking school, or good branded internship. If you don't have those, I can confirm those aren't the end-all be-all, but you want to really make sure to hit on other areas of your resume then to really stand out. Eventually, the people we hire from internships will eventually ideally work at these companies. So obviously, we want to find people who could be the best employees. If you think about what that really looks like, some key traits are having proactiveness, leadership ability, and strong technical abilities. So you want to understand that we try to map those traits back to your resume. For example, taking advanced classes ahead of your year might show that you have proactiveness. Having a leadership position in a club will show leadership abilities. Winning any hackathons might show strong technical ability. So you can kind of understand that this is kind of how we're starting to break things down. A lot of times people are wondering like, what is the GPA that we're really looking for? At most schools, a 3.5 or above already puts you on the dean's list, which is pretty good already. Some of the strongest students I see at schools do usually have a 3.8 to 4.0, but I wouldn't say that's a deal breaker either. It can be flexible because GPA doesn't always correlate to whether someone will do well in the interviews. If you have a 3.7, that's totally fine. 3.6, again, anything in the 3.5 or above, I think should relatively still be good. If you're afraid, like maybe you're at the 3.6 or 3.5, I would just write dean's list on your resume just to show people that you have strong academic ability. And then again, if you don't have a strong GPA, people usually leave that out, which is totally fine. Really, at the FAANG level, we're not just looking for any one thing. You really want to make sure you have a holistic approach. And that's why I wouldn't say just like, don't just put a FAANG internship and lean on that. You're really going to want to make sure you have like differentiators in every kind of section where you're excelling at. Like I would just try to boast all of that on your resume. I often see people who maybe have an internship at Google, but then they don't put their GPA. Ultimately, while Google's a really strong internship, you still want to try to show any differentiators you can in other areas. Having any hackathon wins or any coding competition wins is really great. Having any TA experience could show leadership. Taking advanced classes or putting that on your resume can show that you're really proactive. If you've applied to any selective programs, you'll want to include that in and maybe say like, oh, I was selected out of 1 out of 50. Stuff like that really helps. Projects, to be honest, aren't that important. It's really going to depend on your project. If you look at anyone's resume, everyone has projects. So you can see that that doesn't become a differentiator just because you put a project. For all your internships and your projects, you're going to want to make sure to show impact as well. So put how many people did this affect, or how difficult was it? Are you using any new technologies? That will be more important rather than the project itself. For example, oh, my project touched on like 100 users or XYZ, something like that. or, oh, I improved this product by this much percentage, or hey, I saved this much money. I think those are the obvious, but I think something people don't understand is sometimes depending on the size of the company you're applying to, it might look a little bit different. For example, at big tech companies, a recruiter is probably going to be the one looking through your resumes. At smaller or mid-sized companies, a hiring manager or engineer themselves will probably be looking at your resume. Smaller companies, you're going to really want to make sure that your projects and your internships have a lot more relevancy to the jobs you're applying for. Compared to big tech companies, because they're hiring at such a huge volume, the direct relevancy doesn't matter as much. You're going to want to make sure your project isn't just like a typical school project that everyone does, but maybe something that goes above and beyond. Try your best to make sure all of these things are included. Like, I'll often see sometimes people put TA on their LinkedIn but won't have it on their resume. I think a lot of people overbloat their resume with their projects. I would probably reduce that as much as you can and try to include everything else that you think would show like strong holistic signals. Honestly, talking to most people, projects aren't the most important unless they're super relevant to the internship you're applying for, but it's usually not the case. Okay, now here are some of the automatic easy fixes you can do and what causes me to sometimes automatically reject a candidate. I think a really easy thing is just like your grad year. If you're not in the grad year you're eligible for, I will just automatically reject you. Sometimes people won't put their grad year on their LinkedIn, and that can be tricky because recruiters are looking by the grad year. If you don't have any grad year at all, sometimes your profile won't get pulled up when recruiters aren't looking, so just be mindful of these. I would really try to self-examine here and see whether you really want to target new grad or internships, and then just put on your profile that you might have a flexible grad year. Or if your grad year has shifted, make sure to update that on LinkedIn or your resume quickly, because that could make or break for whether I just automatically have to pass on you. A lot of times candidates also like to do these hacks where they apply with multiple emails. I'll say, to be honest, I don't think that's the most helpful, and it kind of might just make things harder for everyone, because eventually in our system we can see if there's any duplicates. So it just makes things like tedious for us. Like, even if you get 2 different online assessments, eventually when the duplicate profiles merge, it won't super matter. Sometimes I message candidates and the email just goes to spam and they never read it. I think that's another reason why I recommend just having one email. Make sure to check your spam and your junk. You never know, maybe I've already emailed you. Another quick one is not having your LinkedIn or resume up to date. I'll say the university recruiting season for FAANG companies usually starts around the August to December time. That's the main hiring time. And then if there's some leftover roles open, it'll keep going to January to March. But really focus on that August to December timeline. Usually before the roles open up, recruiters are already looking through at LinkedIn and other sites to try to find candidates that they're already interested in reaching out to. So I would make sure to update your LinkedIn a little ahead of time. Make sure that your grad year, that's all good. Have any internships you're about to start for that summer or haven't fully completed yet, just feel free to update that already on your LinkedIn. Say that you're an incoming intern, stuff like that. Okay, lastly is how to get a recruiter like me to respond. And I just want to say, I really appreciate the hustle. Like, I really appreciate that people go out of their way to message me. I just can't always respond to all those messages, but I really respect it. I try my best to look through the messages. I'm probably going to look at your LinkedIn or resume once and then make a decision from there. So you want to make sure when I'm looking at your resume that everything's already updated. I won't have time to message you and be like, have you taken these classes? Make sure to have that all already on your resume. Sometimes people won't even have LinkedIn profiles, and that makes it hard for recruiters to find you, to be honest. A lot of times people send like really long paragraphs. Usually doesn't matter. There's nothing really important being said there. I'm just going to look straight at your resume. So try to always send a resume to a recruiter. I would suggest just keeping the message short, or just summarize like really key and important things you think a recruiter wants to know, such as like maybe a company or type of work you've been working on. Keep it to like really short bullet points, really. A lot of times people are like, how many times should I reach out to the recruiter? I would probably give it like 4 times max, but I do really appreciate when people message me again, because sometimes a recruiter might just see your message briefly and then have to go in another meeting, or might have to do something really quick and switch out of that. So maybe at another time they're more free and they see your message. I think that can help out. If they haven't responded to you by 3 or 4 times though, it probably is like they're not going to be moving you forward. So I would probably stop after the 4th time. But until then, you never know. Lastly, for new grad is a hard one because usually most companies just want to convert their interns because the intern's already been working there for 3 or 4 months. They kind of know their performance, and that's ultimately what matters more than just like seeing how someone does in an interview. So that's something you'll want to think about as well for where you intern at. You'll want to think about where you could potentially get return offers from, and you'll want to realize that getting into companies at the new grad level is way harder than at the internship level. Usually there's more interviews for new grad. Usually they're prioritizing their current interns. I would just recommend to try to start early. Obviously, this is the most helpful if you're like a freshman in college, but obviously if you're already further down in school, you can always consider trying to push back your grad date a little bit to see if you want to use that time in school to still go for internships. I know when you're at the university time frame, you really want to get to that big company early on and as quick as possible. But I'll just say, like, there's going to be so many opportunities to get to a FAANG company at some point. Like, don't let this be discouraging or say anything about your value at all. It really is sometimes timing, like who you reach out to, all these different factors. I want to say at mid to small size companies as well, it will really help if you can reach out to like an engineering manager or someone on the team or the recruiter. If you can get any endorsement from an engineering manager, that's always really strong. This is the time in your career where it feels the most discouraging because you really lack the opportunities to get more experience and it's just so competitive. Just know that it does get easier from here on out. I hope, unless AI comes in. We've all been there, and just know it will get better the more experience you get. Focus on what you can keep doing to keep taking a step forward, and that might feel a little bit better than focusing on the rejections. Okay, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to drop comments down below. Make sure to follow. I'm going to be posting every Friday. Next time we'll be talking about online assessment. So let me know what you'd like to see or what other questions you might have. Good luck on the hiring season. You got it. Just keep applying, and we'll see you next time.
Look, I just flipped the switch. Flip, flip. I don't know nobody else that's doing this.